I'm Roop Raj. We have around 80 days to go before the November election. So, hey, who's ready to talk about 2026? I know you're exhausted already. Well, one big name in Michigan is, and that person says they're considering making another run at the governor's office in the next midterm election. Who is it? Well, you'll have to wait and see. Plus, we are going one-on-one with Detroit Mayor Mike Duggan as the incredible comeback story that is the Motor City keeps making headlines across the country. And there's something that the mayor and former President Trump actually agree on when it comes to the city. Stick around. Yes, even in this democratically run city, Donald Trump is happy about something. We'll tell you what it is in just a few moments here. But we start tonight with breaking news in the presidential race. Democratic vice presidential candidate and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz has accepted an invitation to square off against the GOP VP candidate JD Vance. As of now, Vance has not accepted the invitation. If he does, the debate would be held October 1st, and it would be hosted by CBS News. Well, now to the phrase by James Carville that we've brought us all together and has brought both sides talking about the vote. It's the economy, stupid. Something that impacts everyone, whether you're left or right or in the center. And a huge topic this election cycle is inflation. Whether it's sky-high grocery prices or soaring home prices, we're paying more for pretty much everything, it seems. So we hit the road to get a pulse check asking you if you think that Trump or Harris is better equipped to tackle inflation. And we're also asking you where you're feeling the pinch the most.
Who do you think can handle the economy and inflation better? Democrats or Republicans? Or Trump or Harris? Do you have an opinion?
I guess Harris if I had to pick between the two.
Harris? Are you hopeful?
No.
No.
I'm not really worried about inflation, though.
All right, Jen, on the pulse here, who's more capable of handling the economy and inflation, Trump or Harris?
Trump.
Why do you say that?
I just think he has a total grasp on our economy and where the state of the nation is at right now and what we need to get back to.
You know, probably groceries. You know, shoot, I can remember a time where you take $50 and get a basket full of stuff, right? Now you take $200 and still only get a half of a basket.
Yeah. At the grocery store.
I would say at the grocery store. Right. Yes, absolutely. It's pretty much it right now. I'm not doing a lot of other shopping, so that's my shopping that I do. So I'm sure it's going to hit me in other places sooner or later.
Definitely groceries. Okay. For sure. Like, you know, I mean, gas has always fluctuated up and down, for a long time now. But the grocery part, it's the fact that every time I go there, it seems like it just keeps going up and up, even just by little increments at a time. Like, and I coupon a lot, but that still doesn't really, still really doesn't help there. I can only have so many coupons, save so much.
Now, by the way, you saw me out and about with my cell phone. I just saw a good conversation, so I started rolling on my phone, but I was wearing my baseball cap, and I don't tip my hat when it comes to politics, but go green, go white. You saw that Spartan hat there. We also put the question on fox2detroit.com. Who do you think is better equipped to handle inflation, Harris or Trump? You can scan that QR code right there at the bottom of your screen. So far, most of you say it's Trump, according to this poll. And mind you, we're not professional pollsters. This is just kind of a sample of what some of you are thinking. And a lot of you on X, the artist formerly known as Twitter, say the same thing. Proud Patriot US said, without a doubt, Trump. Kamala oversaw the current inflation alongside Biden. She is the problem, they say. And Biggie Little also responded saying this: I don't know if Harris is perfect, but what I do know is that Trump attempted a trade war during his first term and wants to place tariffs on all imports during his next, thus raising the price of goods. That's not how you solve inflation. That's how you make it worse, Biggie Little says. Back now to Trump's speech in North Carolina. He started speaking a little after 4 o'clock in an address that was billed by his campaign as an economic address. And the backdrop for the rally was pushing his plan to end taxes on tips. But he started by railing against his Democratic rivals, accusing Democrats of cheating by replacing President Biden with VP Harris. Once he started talking about the economy, he accused Harris and Biden of ruining the American dream and brought up how Harris said she wants to end taxes on tips after he already pitched that idea. Take a listen.
Kamala Harris wants to talk about her fantasies, and they are everything she says. If I say something, she said that's what she's going to do, too. I say, what are you doing? But she wants to talk for the future about these fantasies, but really what she needs to explain is the present suffering that she's caused along with Joe Biden. And by the way, they're a team. You know, she's trying to throw him overboard. She doesn't want to know who he is anymore. She doesn't want to talk about him anymore.
Well, he also talked about the Biden administration's energy policy and said Vice President Harris would ban fracking if she's elected.
Just recently, I'll ban fracking. There will be no fracking. That means that she can't win the state of Pennsylvania because Pennsylvania is all about fracking. That's their biggest industry. And you know what, Pennsylvania, I hope you're watching because that's what she says and that's what she'll do and that's what she'll go back to. She wants to ban fracking and she's wanted it for her entire career.
Now, Harris has said in the past that she's wanted to ban fracking and held that position in the Democratic primary back in 2019. Now, she has changed her tune a little bit with that need to win Pennsylvania. Her campaign now says she wouldn't ban fracking, adding Trump's claims are just an attempted distraction. But keep in mind, Pennsylvania has actually benefited from a lot of fracking. So if she wants to win that state, she maybe is bending a little bit to some of their needs. Former President Trump's running mate was back in Michigan today, this time on the west side of the state. He was in Byron Center near Grand Rapids today, also touching on energy and repeating a line you hear often at Trump rallies.
Well, under President Trump, we're going to embrace a very simple principle. We're going to get American energy from American workers and American territory. We are going to drill, baby, drill. That's going to cut down prices, and that's going to create a lot of prosperity for the American people.
Vance spoke at an industrial hauling business in West Michigan. It's his third visit to Michigan since he was named former President Trump's running mate and his second in as many weeks. You'll remember he was in Shelby Township last week speaking at the police department there. Well, now let's focus on the other side of the ticket. There's a good chance you'll see a lot more of Vice President Harris on your television screen. So let's go by the numbers. The first numbers you need to know about, 90 million and 3. That's actually the amount of money her campaign is spending on advertisements over just the next 3 weeks. It comes on the heels of a massive ad buy just after she replaced Biden at the top of that ticket. The next number you should know about, 7. That's the number of battleground states that she, by the way, has to cover with those ads. And if you've ever wondered whether that buy includes Michigan, the answer is absolutely yes. She needs to win Michigan. It'll actually help her cover smaller regions that her campaign hasn't reached yet. The ads will be seen on popular shows like The Bachelorette, Big Brother, The Daily Show, and The Simpsons, which, of course, the last one, Homer and Company, you can watch right here on Fox 2. Now, here's another number, just to put that $90 million into context, $377 million. That's the amount of money, the number of dollars that the campaign says it had on hand as it entered this month. A good chunk of that was raised in July. And finally, here's the last number you need to know tonight, 1.1. The real clear politics average of polls. Right now, Harris leads Trump by a little more than that 1 point, expanding her lead over last week. Again, polls only mean so much, but it just shows how the race is going back and forth and how we have a long few months to go. All right, who wants to talk about the midterms? Well, this woman, Tudor Dixon, really does. You'll remember she ran against Governor Whitmer 2 years ago, but Whitmer ended up winning a second term. But Dixon talked with the dean of the Capitol beat, Mr. Tim Skubic.
I've seen what's happened in the last 2 years, and it's pretty devastating. So whatever I do, it's going to be to advance the state and make it better.
With your permission, could I report that you have not ruled it out?
Yes.
That would be fair.
Yeah, that would be fair. You'll have to find out with everyone else, Tim.
Well, former candidates Kevin Rinke and Perry Johnson also not hiding the fact that they might run once again. Well, turning to some non-election related news, and an L in court for the former president. The judge who oversaw Trump's hush money trial says he's not going anywhere. Trump's lawyers claim Judge Juan Merchan couldn't be impartial because his daughter is a Democratic political consultant and had worked for Harris during the 2020 campaign. But Merchan says that request has tons of inaccuracies and unsubstantiated claims. Trump was convicted in the case back in May. He is set to be sentenced in September, but his lawyers want the verdict tossed out because of the Supreme Court ruling on presidential immunity. Back now on the Pulse, diving into everything people, power, and politics from the Motor City to the Beltway. And we're taking a really big Motor City focus tonight. You know, the fact the city actually went through and exited bankruptcy and is now thriving is something major cities across the country are noticing. And there was a man who really helped lead the city through that crisis. That man, you know him, Mayor Mike Duggan. He joins us on the Pulse tonight. And as always, it's good to see you, Mayor, and thanks for staying up late with us here today.
Good to see you, Rob.
So, Mayor Duggan, let's talk about this. You know, it's not often that you see not one but two, sometimes three newspapers all in the same week talk about the great city of Detroit. San Francisco newspaper and New Orleans newspaper both had some pretty good headlines here. Why did Detroit and New Orleans disaster recoveries diverge? And the other one from San Francisco is San Francisco the next Detroit. Motor City's mayor can teach us a thing or two. Mayor Duggan, I imagine that the people of San Francisco hope that San Francisco could be the next Detroit. Who would have thought that these headlines would be here even 10 years ago?
Well, I'm just happy for the city. You remember what it was like 10 years ago. Every time there was a story, it was bankruptcy. It was the highest murder rate in America. It was the highest unemployment rate in America. And your friends around the country felt sorry for you. And that wasn't a good feeling. So now I keep getting invited to these national conferences. And I spoke this spring at the conference for the largest tech companies. They then invited me out to San Francisco, and I had dinner in Pacific Heights with some of the most famous tech CEOs in the country, and they wanted to hear from me, how did they partner between the business community, the city leaders, philanthropy to do this? And we had a long time talking about what I did in Detroit that they could use in San Francisco. They gave me some insight on what we could do to attract some tech companies here to the city.
But you're bounded with humility when you talk about, of course, what any good leader should do, which is learn from other people around you. But let's talk about what other people can learn from the city of Detroit. The people of this city, the resilience of this city, and the leadership. What did Detroit do differently than, let's say, New Orleans, where I spent so many years of my career, where I met my wonderful, beautiful wife. We both live here now. And we ask the question all the time, what went so different for New Orleans than Detroit? Talk about that for a moment.
Well, I think the biggest thing here is the unity. We are now 11 years in, and I have yet to veto an action of the Detroit City Council. So we have managed to put together a strategy that we can present to the business community, to the labor unions, and to the country to say, come to Detroit, we're united, we're not caught up in the us versus them politics that's tied up Lansing, tied up Washington, tied up so many states. And I think that's the thing they hear the most. The head of Amazon's global offices said Detroit was the easiest place in the world to site a facility, and they've got more than 2,000 people working in the Amazon facility at the State Fairgrounds. That's what's really been driving our success.
But talk for a moment about the challenges as well, because the fact that we had COVID and so many people moving back into their homes to work, you have empty office space across the country, in Detroit as well. Yet here we have a collaboration and Dan Gilbert building this huge, the tallest building in Detroit. Why is the climate different in this city than other cities for us to have the ability to do that?
Well, in some ways, we were lucky in that we didn't have the office inventory that New York or Chicago or San Francisco had that devastated the community when it was vacated. But the other thing is you have to look at what was being built. We have a huge amount of manufacturing being built, auto plants and supply of plants. That construction kept going. We have thousands of housing units being built. That construction kept going. And as you know, downtown has become far more an entertainment destination. The years I worked down there at 5:30 at night, there was nobody on the streets. Now, nights and weekends, there are bigger crowds on the streets of Detroit than there are during the workday. And so we've adapted to COVID, I think, a lot faster than others. The one thing I mentioned to the folks from San Francisco, every conversation I had out there for 3 days started with, since COVID. In Detroit, we've moved past COVID and we're rebuilding, and it's interesting to see the difference in the perspective.
What about the homeless issue that San Francisco is dealing with, the encampments that you see? I know one thing you've been really strong about is to say, hey, we have to be compassionate, we have to control the issue as well. How did you do it?
Well, again, this is a case where the city council was unified in commitment to affordable housing, but the city of Detroit has built $1 billion of new affordable housing in the last 5 years. And between that and renovating the vacant houses that we have had capacity for folks, and we have a great outreach team that knows our homeless folks. You have some people who don't want to be under a shelter, whether they have mental health issues, whether they have addiction issues, whether they have other issues, but we are reaching out compassionately to them. But every time mayors visit here from around the country, they say, where are your tent encampments? They don't believe that we have a city where we can reach out to our homeless one at a time and find an alternative.
What about the people who, many of them who live in the neighborhood, the narrative has been around for 10 to 12 years as the downtown started springing up. Hey, it's the us versus them that you say doesn't exist, but we know that many people in the neighborhood say, hey, wait a minute, the downtown's a playground for people in the suburbs to come hang out in. What do you tell people who say that, and how do you make sure you're spending enough attention to both the neighborhoods and the downtown?
Yeah, there are 600 block club presidents and neighborhood association leaders who would vehemently disagree with your statement. They're very proud of what's happening in the neighborhoods. And the University of Michigan did a study earlier this year that wealth in homeowners grew almost $5 billion in the last 10 years. Our housing values are growing faster than even San Diego and Miami. And what that means is the neighborhoods are coming back. And if you're a homeowner over the last 10 years, chances are your property values have tripled. And that is what I wanted to see. And what the University of Michigan study shows is the poorest neighborhoods are the ones that have seen the biggest increase. We are reaching out to every corner, and things like the Joe Louis Greenway, where we're taking 30 miles of abandoned railroad track and scrap tires and turning it into beautiful parkland, weaving through the neighborhoods, is an example of what we're doing to make sure no corner of the city is left behind.
Wanted to ask you about the national political scene. You're friends with Joe Biden, the president of the United States. He was a friend of Detroit, has been, and continues to be. What about VP Harris? Do you feel like you're going to get the same thing from her?
You know, the relationship that I had with Joe Biden was a 1 in a million between a mayor and a president. But the Biden-Harris administration have been terrific, and Vice President Harris has been terrific. You look at everything that's happening right now. We're building solar fields because of the tax credits that the federal government passed. We're putting in replacing 8,000 lead pipelines with copper lines so that families will have safe water because of the federal government. We're building the Joe Louis Greenway because of the federal government. And Kamala Harris has been entirely supportive, and they have a philosophy that federal government should help cities.
How confident are you that Kamala Harris can reach the Detroit voters out there and make sure that they get out to the polls, activate, and vote?
Well, Detroit loved Joe Biden, but I can tell you the last 2 weekends, looking at the door-knocking crews heading out into the neighborhoods, our door-knocking crews, our volunteers were twice as large and even more enthused. So I see the enthusiasm pick up significantly. And Kamala Harris, I will predict, will get somewhere between 96 and 98% of the vote in Detroit.
All right, we're going to watch your prediction here. Mayor, we're going to take a quick break, but I want you to stay with us because we have an important next segment here. Mayor Mike Duggan, a special guest on The Pulse. Next on The Pulse, you know what? The topic he and former President Trump may actually agree on. You heard me right. Stay with us. Back now on The Pulse, covering everything people, power, and politics, and picking up our conversation with Detroit Mayor Mike Duggan. You might not realize this, but there's a topic that both the mayor and former president agree on. It's in spite of the fact that Detroit is, as Trump always calls it, a democratically run city. He likes to pick on those cities. This soundbite with my interview with President Trump involves football, specifically the draft. Take a look.
I was very happy with the NFL draft, the way it worked. I was watching it very closely. It was beautiful. It was big. It was bold. It was beautiful. And they deserve it because their team became a great team all of a sudden. The coach, the quarterback, they've done a great job with the NFL. Detroit has done a great job. I was very happy. I love Detroit. I have a lot of friends in Detroit.
Mayor Duggan, your thoughts on what Trump said about Detroit?
I hadn't seen that clip before, but when he was president, he ignored us for 4 years and called us a hellhole. So I'm really glad to see that he appreciates what we've accomplished in the last few years.
Let me ask you this. If for whatever reason, former President Trump, if the voters decide he's going to be the next president, I know you had a good relationship with Biden and you hope to have a good relationship with Harris as well. How do you maintain rapport, a good relationship, and try to work with someone who you don't agree with if President Trump ends up in the White House?
Well, I already did it once. He was president for 4 years, and basically I tried to keep my head down, and he ignored us for 4 years, which is better than he did some cities, but he never visited the city of Detroit once, never did a single thing to help us on any issue. He visited a black church in Detroit before the election, never came back, and now I noticed he visited a black church in Detroit before this election, and I don't expect to see him again in the next 4 years if he were to get elected.
But Mayor Duggan, in this world, we know how important it is for leaders to talk and be on the same page. If he does end up in the White House, what are you pledging to do to make sure that you maintain rapport and work together?
I do what I always do. I have had an excellent relationship with Republican leaders in the Senate and in the House in Lansing. I've worked across the aisle with Republicans locally and had good success with a lot of the Republican Congress members. So, but Trump is a hard guy to warm up to.
Last question for you, Mayor Duggan, here on The Pulse. You know, that article in the San Francisco paper, it alluded to people who stop to do these types of interviews sometimes have a reach for a higher political office. As the gubernatorial race rolls around, is that a job that you're interested in?
For the next 85 days, I am not going to focus on anything except this presidential election. So I'll talk about my future after that.
All right. Well, day 86, we'll be talking again maybe, and we can ask you the question then. Mayor Mike Duggan, I want to thank you for your time today. It's good to see you here on The Pulse.